Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to the Mom Light weekly vlog, coming at you from a slightly different backdrop this week as I'm visiting my in-laws in Florida, but still committed to getting this vlog into your inbox. So here we are, toddlers napping. Let's do it. We are talking about fasted workouts today. Another very common question I get outside of the caffeine and fasting is, should I work out when I'm fasting? What are the advantages? What are the disadvantages? So let's dive in. So when I think about fasted workouts, I really think of two advantages, and we're going to get into that. And I think of one disadvantage. So let's talk about the good stuff first. To understand advantage one, I just want to briefly describe the fact that our bodies are amazing, infinitely intelligent human bodies, are capable of running on two engines. The engine that we tend to use a lot in the modern day and age is the glucose-glycogen engine. So this is the engine that uses glucose for fuel. When it's stored as glycogen, that is also the glucose-glycogen engine. This comes from the traditional diet where there's enough carbohydrates, there's a lot of protein, there's a little bit of fat, but really the diet is predominant in carbs and protein, and this is broken down readily into glucose, stored as glycogen, and we use this. And it's only when we don't eat for about 16 to 18, maybe 20 hours, depending on the person and depending on what you ate and what your diet predominantly looks like and how much glycogen is stored. This is when you deplete that fuel of that glucose-glycogen engine. Okay, so this is the engine that most of us are running on kind of all the time in the modern day. The human body also has the capacity to run on another engine, which is called the fatty acid engine or the fat engine or the stored fat engine, right? And this is an engine which can take stored fat or fatty acids, metabolize them, and produce something called ketone bodies, one of which, the best studied of which, is called beta-hydroxybutyrate. Just think of them as ketones. I know you guys have heard about ketones. It's very trendy now. Our bodies will take our stored body fat, metabolize those fatty acids in the liver and produce beta-hydroxybutyrate and other ketone bodies, which then function as fuel. So we are remarkably adaptable. We humans are remarkably adaptable. We can switch from this kind of glucose-glycogen train to the ketone body fatty acid metabolism train. And this makes a lot of sense if you think back to our ancestral times, where when food was abundant, the glucose-glycogen tank was happily filled up, no problem. But sometimes as hunter-gatherers, we would run out of this glucose-glycogen and our body had to switch to stored fat for fuel. And so we have evolved to be able to run on either of these engines. And one could argue that in the modern day, we rarely allow our bodies to tap into the fatty acid engine. I love my little gestures and my two little trains. Sorry, but you know what? In the modern day, we rarely force our body or allow our body to even practice running on the stored fat for fuel train. Because how many of us actually wait 18 hours before eating? Most people don't, unless you're on the intermittent fasting train, in which case you're definitely wondering if you should work out in a fasted state. So just going back to fasted workouts, one of the advantages of a fasted workout is that if you've been fasting overnight for about 13 hours, which I highly recommend, and I will do a vlog about why that 13 is a magic number based upon the science. But if you do an overnight fast of 12 to 16 hours, 18 hours, you have practiced some fasting. You have started to deplete your glucose and glycogen stores. And when you then do a fasted workout, which means you do not eat before you work out, you are now pushing, nudging, encouraging your body to tap into stored fat for fuel, get into ketogenesis, produce things like beta-hydroxybutyrate, which is a ketone body, which has beneficial effects on your heart health, your brain health, your mitochondrial health, your muscle health, and that's a good thing. So that's an advantage of a fasted workout, and studies have actually shown that if you take people and you divide them up and one group does fasted workouts and one group fuels before a workout, the people doing the fasted workout will lose more body fat. Makes sense. You have to tap into stored body fat for fuel because you haven't fueled yourself. If it sounds scary, I will tell you from experience that you can become very good at it with a little bit of practice. So if you're somebody who has always been used to fueling yourself before a workout because you thought you needed to, just trust that your body has this reserve fuel in the form of stored body fat, and you can access it. It requires different metabolic pathways. So when you first start doing it, you might feel a little uncomfortable. It's almost like you have to get that engine revved up. But once you get it revved up and practice revving it up, you will become more metabolically flexible and be able to switch from the glucose glycogen train to the stored fat train. And then fasted workouts just allow you to move more quickly into burning stored fat for fuel. You will burn more body fat. I want to say one thing about that study, which showed that both groups, the group that did the fasted workouts and the group that did the pre-fueled workouts, lost the same amount of total weight because they were eating the same amount of calories. And this is just to say that at the end of the day, what really matters is whether you can create a calorie deficit. That's going to help you lose more weight if that's a goal. So my advice to you, if you're looking to lose weight in a healthy, sustainable way, is to bring yourself into a healthy calorie deficit by cutting out junk food, nutritionally void, high calorie dense foods, and eat a whole food, real food-based diet, and practice fasted workouts. And then the combination of the two will give you sustained weight loss and allow you to access that stored fat for fuel engine, which has so many other benefits beyond just weight loss. So that's the first advantage. The second advantage of fasted workouts is more nuanced and interesting, and this came out in a recent study a few months ago, and it has to do with appetite control and appetite and satiety hormones. And what it showed is that people who worked out first thing in the morning before they ate, they tended to then eat a little bit more after the workout, which was their first meal of the day, which makes sense. They hadn't eaten maybe for 16 hours, 14, 16, whatever the timing was. They woke up, they were in a fasted state, they worked out, then they showered or whatever. They didn't shower, I don't know. And then they ate and they were hungry, so they ate a little bit more than the group that had pre-fueled before the workout. But interestingly, the rest of the day, they ate less. So something about the fasted workouts seemed to regulate, balance, bring into equilibrium their hunger and satiety hormones, so they were satisfied with less food for the rest of the day. I have noticed this to be the case for myself. It's a very fascinating study. It might have something to do with the regulation of the satiety hormone called leptin, which will be the topic of another vlog because it's very, very interesting. But those are the two advantages of fasted workouts. Just to recap, you allow your body to tap into stored body fat, which obviously helps you burn more body fat and assists your weight loss or fat loss goals if done alongside a healthy calorie deficit. And then the second advantage is that you produce these amazing ketone bodies, which our bodies can do. And this has benefits beyond just weight loss for mitochondrial health, muscle health, heart health, and brain health. And the third, so I guess it was three because the first one had 2 subpoints. The third is that you have better appetite and satiety control throughout the day. So pros of fasted workouts. What are the cons? The con really has to do with our stress load. So the scientific or medical term for the stress load, think of everyone having a bucket that we're allocated at birth. We have a bucket, and each of us's bucket may be a little bit different, but really all of us can handle a certain amount of stress in our lives. Stress is not necessarily bad, especially physical stress. So exercise is physical stress, but this physical stress causes our bodies to adapt and respond so that they become more resilient. Fasting is a physical stress, but again, in response, the body can adapt and become more resilient and be longer lived and have better health span and all those good things. So, and then of course there's stress of work, there's emotional stress, there is environmental stress. If you live in New York City, there's like sound pollution stress. There's all kinds of stress coming at us, right? And so we have this threshold for how much stress we can handle. And if we're already so stressed because of work, because of motherhood, because of blah, 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 unlimited to-do list, okay? If you really feel strung out and stressed, and then you add a fasted workout to the mix, where now you're adding 2 new stresses. You're fasting, which is a stress, and you're working out, which is a stress, you may be causing that stress bucket or that allostatic load, as it's called, to overflow. And now what will happen is you've gone too far. So you're super stressed, your cortisol is super high, your adrenaline is super high. You're actually not going to lose weight, which if that's a goal for your fasted workout, because when we're in a hyper stress state, when we are in fight or flight, our body holds on to body fat, particularly around the midsection. So sometimes it's just about tuning in, and it's just about leaning in and really honoring the signals our body is giving us. If you feel good, rested after a good night's rest, yeah, if you're not sleeping well and then you want to do a fasted workout, you may be pushing it too hard in the stress department and it may backfire. So in this case, it might be worth breaking the fast, lowering that stress load, pre-fueling yourself, working out not in a fasted state, and then being intelligent throughout the day with your food choices so that you stay in a healthy calorie deficit if that's your goal. Everyone's goal for fasted workouts or working out is not to lose weight. For some people, it's to build strength. For some people, it's to gain muscle. For some people, it's to boost mood and prevent things like anxiety and depression. So this is not just about fat loss and weight loss, though we tend to focus on that a lot. You know, we live in a world where many people are struggling with excess body weight, again, because of this disconnect between our ancestral environment and our modern day environment and our body's makeup, which is really primed for the ancestral environment. So I could talk for hours, as is apparent, but those are the main points I wanted to make about the pros and cons of fasted workouts and how, if you're too stressed, you might want to back off the fasted workouts for a bit, get your sleep in order, do a lot of deep breathing, get that allostatic load in check, and then push yourself into a fasted workout. More is not always more. Thanks for listening, guys. As always, I hope it's been helpful. I love hanging with you in this way. Can't wait to share next week's vlog. Until then, be well. So much love. Oh, and a quick PS. If you're doing an endurance workout that's longer than 60 minutes, or even weight training that's longer than 60 minutes, which is a lot, then you may really want to think about pre-fueling, because the research shows that as long as your workout is capped at 60 minutes, there really is no boost in workout effectiveness or energy if you pre-fuel or you don't. So you have this, you can have a really great workout without pre-fueling because you have stored fuel, remember? But if you're doing a longer workout, like say you're running a half marathon or you're doing something for like an hour and a half, then you may want to consider pre-fueling just to optimize your efficiency and efficacy in the workout. And I will say this, so when I ran the Boston Half Marathon recently, I didn't fuel before. Because I'm so used to fasted workouts, I feel better doing fasted workouts. I'm more energized, more light, and I just do better. So I didn't eat anything before the run, but at the 1 hour mark, I started to feel really depleted, and that's when I replenished with, I don't know, like a Cliff protein bar or something that they were handing out at the race. So that's just a little nuance point for those of you who really push it with your workouts. Hope that helps.